My ex-boyfriend was one of the sweetest people when we met, but it was all an act, and he's from Wisconsin, the state of serial killers. My ex-boyfriend was one of the sweetest people when we met, but it was all an act. Me and him met at a summer job when we were both in high school, and it was immediately love at first sight. He showed me so much love at first by showering me with compliments and making sure that I knew he was in love with me. After a while he started asking for pictures, and then more intimate things. In that point in time I wasn't ready to start having the added pressure that could bring, so I nicely told him I wasn't ready. As time went on he would describe to me his life and made himself seem like some angelic figure. At the time I only had a few friends, but none of them approved of him. When I met his friends, which he claimed to have a lot, I noticed how many of them left him out. As I only knew the version of him he had told me, I took his side. As school started back I started hearing more about him and the things he had done in previous years, which weren't too bad. He just wasn't well liked. At this point I knew he had problems, but so did I. So again I dismissed it and took it as an opportunity to let him know how horrible I felt, because in my mind he was a good person and they were all crappy for not being there for him. Skip forward a few months later and we had started having fights over things he started doing to me, the worst being threatening suicide if I left him after he went on substances and traumatized me. A few days before we broke up I was at his house. I had brought him lunch and his favorite snacks to lighten the mood and try to emphasize how I loved him and wanted him to be okay. After sitting in silence for about an hour, we usually were very chatty, he decided he wanted intimacy. By this time I had finally given into this new thing in my life, as I was so deep in that shitty relationship. During this, he noticed scars on my leg but let himself finish, then cleaned up. He got back in bed, stared at the wall and told me he needs a break from me. I sat there trying to reason with him, saying things like I can turn off my depression, which was caused by my family and the fact that he had given me no support, but this man dismissed me, told me to shut up as I was sobbing trying to hug him, and kicked me out of his house as he lied to his mom that I just had stuff going on but he wanted me to be okay. Later that day he texted me and told me he loved me, and I gave into that and started saying how I loved him and it's okay because we all make mistakes and I can get better, no problem for him. A few days went by and he seemed to be avoiding me. At this point, because I have a good heart, I was sending texts and voicemails trying to make sure he was okay. I then got sent SS by my friend that he was texting her on Instagram about death and how much he hates his life. After he found out I saw the conversation, he blamed her for messing up our relationship, calling her names and putting her down for her past. A day later he broke up with me over phone. For 6 months I blamed myself for all his life troubles, and for 3 months I would cry daily texting the few friends he had left in an attempt to check on his well-being. Eventually I met a really nice guy and hit it off. When my ex found out, he lost his shit. He would say hateful things to my new boyfriend, even going as far as to say he would fight this boy or jump him. As I wanted to be loyal to this new person who was very kind, I defended my new boyfriend after no contact with my ex for 6 months. A while after this I realized it wouldn't work out with the new guy, so I broke it off as kindly as possible, and since we had mutual friends and were in the same group there was no beef. After a while my ex reached out after losing everyone. I knew I would always love him, so I tried to help him through his problems so maybe he could become a better person, as everyone else had given up on him. Both my friends, parents, and teachers all called me crazy to go back to someone who clearly was problematic. Some people would go as far to say insane. But I dismissed the warning and tried to help him, which coincidentally finally helped me realize some people just can't be helped. Some of the things he did to me I could never say on this app, but what I did have to say gives a pretty good insight to what kind of person this boy is. Some people can't be helped, and I'm glad I learned my lesson. I have a plan to tell his mom everything that has happened in the 13-month time span, not only with me, but everyone he has hurt. But leave out the worst of it so he can simply get help, so I don't see him on the news in 20 years for assault or even manslaughter, which both me and his old friends are very worried might happen.